Just tell the police you were driving, Emily. You have no real career anyway. My mother's fingers bruised my wrists as she shoved the car keys into my chest. In the driveway behind her, steam hissed from my sister Vanessa's crushed sedan. The aftermath of a hit-and-run, she fled in blind panic. Vanessa was 3 weeks away from winning a city council election, and my father blocked the exit, his voice cold and commanding. She has a real future. You're just an unemployed failure who sits around reading books. Take the fall, or you're dead to this family. Vanessa smirked, wiping her smeared mascara. Who would ever believe a nobody like you over me anyway? They were ready to destroy my life to protect their golden child. What none of them knew was that 3 months ago, I was quietly sworn in as a federal administrative law judge. My name is Emily Vance. I am 29 years old, and to my parents, I have always been the family's biggest disappointment. Ever since we were children, the household revolved entirely around my older sister, Vanessa. She was loud, charismatic, and obsessed with the spotlight. If Vanessa took a dance class, my parents treated it like a world tour. When she decided to run for city council, my father emptied his secondary savings account to finance her billboards, and my mother turned the living room into a campaign headquarters. Every conversation, every dollar, and every drop of their affection was channeled straight toward Vanessa's ambition. I was the exact opposite. I was quiet, observant, and preferred the silence of a library to a crowded political rally. When I studied law, my parents dismissed it as a boring, dead-end pursuit because I wasn't making flashy television appearances or rubbing elbows with local power brokers. To them, I was just an overeducated clerk who spent too much time reading thick books. When I graduated at the top of my class, they didn't even attend the ceremony. Vanessa had a preliminary debate the very same night. I learned early on that sharing my life with them only invited ridicule or exploitation. If I had money, they demanded it for Vanessa's campaign funds. If I had good news, they twisted it into a comparison where I still managed to come up short. So, when the defining moment of my career arrived 3 months ago, I made a deliberate choice. I kept my mouth shut. At 29, after years of relentless clerkships, federal appellate research, and a rigorous vetting process, I was confirmed and sworn in as a federal administrative law judge. It is a position of immense legal authority, handling complex federal disputes, enforcing regulatory compliance, and issuing binding judicial decisions. Yet, whenever I visited my childhood home, I dressed down in faded sweaters, parked my modest commuter car around the block, and let them believe whatever lie brought them comfort. My mother still referred to me as our struggling little bookworm, and Vanessa never missed an opportunity to remind me that while she was shaping the city's future, I was practically invisible. I let them believe it. My silence was not out of shame, but out of necessity. I needed a boundary between my sacred duty to the law and the toxic, chaotic circus of my family. I wanted to protect my peace, my career, and my independence. I never could have anticipated that my quietest secret would soon become their absolute undoing. It was past 11 on a Tuesday night when the heavy garage door rattled violently, shattering the quiet of the house. I had only stopped by to pick up some old tax records from the basement, planning to head back to my apartment within the hour. Instead, the kitchen door flew open, and Vanessa stumbled in, pale as a ghost, her designer coat disheveled, and her hands trembling uncontrollably.
Mom.
Dad, she shrieked, her voice cracking with pure panic. My parents rushed down the stairs in an instant. Outside in the driveway, the headlights of Vanessa's luxury sedan were still on, illuminating a horrific sight. The front bumper was completely caved in, the passenger side headlight was shattered, and deep scratches ran across the hood. I didn't see him, Vanessa sobbed, clutching my mother's nightgown. He stepped off the curb near Elmwood. It was dark, it was raining, and there was a loud thud. I panicked. I just kept driving. A hit and run. My legal instincts flared immediately. Fleeing the scene of an injury accident was a severe felony. But before I could even tell her that she needed to call emergency services and report the location of the pedestrian, my mother's eyes locked onto me. The panic in her face instantly hardened into cold. Ruthless calculation. She lunged forward, grabbing my shoulders with bruising force. Just tell the police you were driving, Emily. I stared at her, stunned. What? You heard your mother. My father cut in, stepping between me and the hallway, his voice dangerously low. Vanessa has an election in 3 weeks. The press will tear her apart. Her entire career, our entire family's future, will be ruined if her name is tied to this. She struck a person and fled, I said, my voice measured despite the rising chill in the room. The victim might need immediate medical help. You're asking me to confess to a felony. It won't be that bad for you. My mother pleaded aggressively, shaking me. You don't have a public image. You're just doing paperwork in some basement office. You have nothing to lose. Vanessa pulled herself together, wiping her mascara-stained cheeks. A vicious, familiar smirk returned to her lips as she looked down at me. Be useful for once in your pathetic life, Emily. Take the keys. Who would believe you over a rising city councilwoman anyway? My father held out the car keys, demanding I step up and take the fall for her crime. They weren't asking. They were commanding the family's sacrifice to lay down her life. Looking at the three of them standing under the harsh fluorescent lights of the garage, every trace of lingering familial sentiment drained completely out of me. They didn't see a daughter or a sister. They saw a scapegoat. A convenient rug under which they could sweep Vanessa's reckless disregard for human life. Fine, I said softly, keeping my posture entirely relaxed. Give me the keys. My father let out a heavy sigh of relief, dropping the fob into my palm with a brief, dismissive pat on my shoulder. Good girl. You're doing the right thing for the family. Make sure you tell them you were blinded by the rain, Vanessa instructed, already retreating toward the hallway, adjusting her hair in the reflection of a framed picture. Don't mention I was even home. While they scrambled upstairs to fabricate an alibi for their golden child, I didn't step near the driver's seat. Instead, I quietly tapped the side button of my phone, initiating an encrypted background audio recording that uploaded directly to my personal cloud server. Then, moving with methodical precision, I walked to the crushed front of Vanessa's sedan. Mounted just behind the rearview mirror was a high-resolution dual-lens dashcam. My father had paid top dollar to install it 6 months ago to protect Vanessa's prized possession. I reached inside, ejected the high-capacity microSD card, slipped it into the inner lining of my jacket, and replaced it with a blank spare from my purse. I also pulled up the smart home app on my phone, which I had originally set up for my parents 2 years ago, and immediately archived the exterior driveway camera footage showing Vanessa stumbling out of the driver's seat alone at 11:14 p.m. 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the suburban driveway. 2 patrol cruisers pulled up behind the damaged car, followed by an unmarked vehicle. Traffic enforcement cameras near Elmwood had picked up the license plate, and local officers had followed the trail of coolant leaking across the asphalt straight to our front lawn. My parents rushed out front first, their expressions rehearsed in tragic concern. Officers, thank God you're here, my father announced loudly, stepping toward the lead detective while gesturing broadly in my direction. My younger daughter just got back a few minutes ago. She was completely hysterical. Emily, step forward and tell the officers what you did to this car. They looked at me with smug expectation, convinced I would bow under the weight of their pressure. They had no idea I had already preserved every second of their conspiracy. Lead Detective Miller stepped forward, his notepad open, eyeing the dented bumper and the shattered glass clinging to the grille. Ma'am, he said, turning directly to me, are you claiming you were the sole operator of this vehicle when it struck a pedestrian at Elmwood 20 minutes ago? Before I could open my mouth, my mother cut in, dabbing at fake tears with a tissue. She was just running a late errand for us, detective. She's terribly clumsy and overwhelmed by everything. Please go easy on her. I looked Detective Miller dead in the eye. My voice was steady, perfectly composed, and carrying the crisp authority I used every single day in federal proceedings. No, detective. I was not operating this vehicle. I arrived here at 9:30 in my own sedan, which is parked around the corner with a cold engine. Furthermore, I have material evidence that will clarify the exact chain of events tonight. My father's face drained of color. "Emily, shut your mouth," he barked, stepping toward me. "Detective, she's in shock. She doesn't know what she's saying." "Step back, sir," the second officer commanded, placing a firm hand on my father's chest. "I suggest you take a look at this," I said calmly, handing my phone directly to Detective Miller. On the screen was the crystal-clear driveway security footage from 11:14 p.m. It showed Vanessa stumbling out of the driver's seat of the damaged sedan, wearing her distinct camel hair coat, sobbing in panic while examining the ruined bumper. Next, I played the clear audio recording from inside the garage just 10 minutes earlier, capturing my mother's exact words. "Just tell the police you were driving, Emily. Vanessa has an election in 3 weeks." The silence that fell over the driveway was absolute. Detective Miller's jaw set into stone. He looked up from the phone, glanced at my frozen parents, and then turned toward the front door where Vanessa was peeking through the curtain. "Officers, secure the house," Miller ordered sharply. "And call the district attorney's office. We have an active hit-and-run, felony evidence tampering, and criminal conspiracy to obstruct justice." My mother let out a strangled gasp, collapsing against the porch railing. My father stared at me with pure venom, his fists clenched, whispering, "You ruined us. You ungrateful little brat. You just destroyed your own sister." "Vanessa destroyed herself," I replied quietly. "The law is just catching up." By 9 o'clock the following morning, the district court complex was packed with local reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers. Vanessa's arrest had leaked within hours, and the media was having a field day with the sensational headline, "A rising political candidate arrested for a midnight hit-and-run and attempting to frame her own sister." I stood near the entrance of the secure judicial wing, watching through the glass partition as my family arrived in the main public gallery. Vanessa looked completely unrecognizable. The arrogant smirk she had worn the night before was gone, replaced by bloodshot eyes and an ashen, exhausted face. She wore no makeup, and her hands shook as she clutched a high-priced defense attorney's arm. My parents flanked her like bodyguards, though both looked aged by a decade overnight. My father was pacing the hallway, muttering angrily into his cell phone, clearly trying to manage the public relations catastrophe. My mother spotted me standing near the corridor and immediately marched over, her face twisted with indignation. "Are you happy now, Emily?" she hissed through the crowd barrier. "Look at what your selfish little temper tantrum has caused. Your sister's entire life is in ruins because you couldn't be a loyal daughter for once. We hired the best defense team in the state, and we will make sure the court knows you fabricated that entire recording." Vanessa stepped up beside her, glaring at me with raw hatred. "You always were jealous of me," she whispered coldly. "You think this makes you special? You're just a nobody clerk who will spend the rest of her life getting coffee for real attorneys. Enjoy your 5 minutes, because my lawyer is going to dismantle you on the witness stand." I looked at both of them, my expression completely unchanged. "You really have no idea where you are, do you?" Before either could respond, the heavy double doors of the federal annex swung open. Bailiff stepped out, and the chief clerk of the court approached me with a file under his arm, bowing his head slightly in professional deference. "Good morning, Your Honor," the clerk said clearly, his voice carrying over the murmuring gallery. "The morning docket is prepared, and Chief Judge Reynolds has asked for your review on the interjurisdictional evidentiary motions before session begins." My mother froze. Vanessa's mouth dropped open mid-sentence. My father stopped dead in his tracks, dropping his phone to the marble floor with a sharp clatter. "Thank you, David," I replied smoothly. "I'll be right in." I stepped behind the velvet security ropes, walking straight past the armed federal marshals who saluted and unlocked the private judicial chambers for me. Through the open door, hanging on the antique coat rack, was my tailored black judicial robe, alongside the official federal seal emblazoned above the bench. The look of sheer horror and disbelief that washed over my family was breathtaking. The collapse of Vanessa's carefully constructed world was swift and absolute. Within 24 hours, the story was leading every local broadcast and trending across state political feeds. Her campaign donors pulled their funding in droves, her endorsements vanished, and the city council committee issued a formal public statement permanently stripping her of her candidacy. The golden child's political career was dead on arrival. In the courtroom, her high-priced defense attorney took one look at the digital trail I had secured, the unedited dashcam footage, the driveway video, the cloud-synced audio of the conspiracy, and the forensic timeline, and immediately advised her to take a plea deal. There was no defense against undeniable truth. Vanessa pleaded guilty to leaving the scene of an accident involving injury and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Because of the clear premeditation and the attempt to falsely incriminate an innocent party, the judge showed little leniency. She was sentenced to 2 years in state custody, followed by 3 years of strict probation, 500 hours of community service, and mandatory restitution payments to the injured pedestrian. My parents did not escape unscathed. Charged as accomplices in the cover-up, they were slapped with massive fines and forced to liquidate Vanessa's campaign reserves along with a large portion of their personal retirement accounts just to pay legal defense fees. Their standing in our suburban community evaporated overnight. Friends stopped returning their calls, and neighbors crossed the street to avoid them. 3 days after the sentencing, my phone began ringing nonstop. First came 20 frantic voicemails from my mother. Her tone had completely shifted from venomous arrogance to weeping desperation. "Emily, please, we had no idea you were a judge. We didn't understand how accomplished you were. You have power in the system. You can talk to the prosecutor. You can make a phone call to reduce Vanessa's sentence. We're your family. We raised you." Then came a text from my father, attempting to play the role of the authoritative patriarch. "We made mistakes, Emily, but blood is thicker than water. Use your position to fix this for your sister, and we will welcome you back with open arms." I stared at the messages, feeling no rage, no satisfaction, only a quiet, profound pity for people who measured human worth strictly by what they could extract from it. They didn't regret trying to destroy my life. They only regretted that I had the authority to hold them accountable. I blocked both of their numbers, without typing a single word in reply. A month after the trial concluded, I received an update from the victim's legal advocate. The pedestrian, a retired schoolteacher named Arthur, was making a full physical recovery. Thanks to the overwhelming evidence and the swift asset freezing during the civil proceedings, his extensive medical bills, physical rehabilitation, and emotional damages were fully compensated through Vanessa's forfeited accounts and insurance settlements. Justice had not only held the reckless accountable, but it had also restored the innocent. As for me, life returned to its quiet, deliberate rhythm. I continued to wake up at dawn, brew my coffee in the silence of my apartment, and walk up the wide marble steps of the federal courthouse. Every morning, when I put on the heavy black robe, I was reminded of why I chose this path in the first place. The law does not exist to serve personal egos, political ambitions, or family dynasties. It exists as an unyielding standard, a force that refuses to look away from the truth, no matter how powerful someone believes they are. My parents tried sending letters to my personal mailbox, alternating between tearful pleas and bitter guilt trips, demanding that I visit Vanessa in the minimum security facility. I never opened them. I shredded every envelope without reading a single line. Some doors, once closed by betrayal, must remain permanently locked to preserve one's sanity and integrity. People often ask me if I regret staying silent for so long about my true profession, or if I should have warned my family before the hammer fell. My answer is always the same. Truth does not require an announcement to hold its power. If my parents had possessed even an ounce of basic decency or maternal love, they never would have attempted to sacrifice their quiet daughter to save their favorite child. Their downfall was not created by my success. It was built entirely on the foundation of their own moral decay. Today, when I sit at the bench and look out across the courtroom, I carry no lingering anger, no resentment, and no need for validation. I have built a life defined by honor, purpose, and peace. And in the end, the quietest person in the room is often the one holding all the power.